Welcome. So glad you are here. Please feel free to type your name, where you're joining in from, and your role in your organization. Please just do that before we continue. Just type your name, your role in where you're working, and which country you're joining us in from. We'll wait for you to do that so we could welcome you. Okay, we have Donald, Organizational Development, joining in from Kenya. Welcome, Donald. Awesome. Welcome. Okay, wait for others to type in. As we wait for you to do that, let me just briefly introduce myself. Let me just go straight. So this is why I said this is what we had already done last week. So let me introduce myself, then we will decide what we are going to do. So my name is Sandra Ihenacho. I'm Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. I'm also known as the Oracle. I'm Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. I've been advocating for training transfer effectiveness for a very long time, for years now, but my voice is becoming louder now. Started becoming louder this year. So for the past 2 decades, I've worked across industries, from micro enterprises to multinational organizations, helping organizations solve one key problem. And what is that? How do they ensure training creates real business value? How do they ensure training creates real business value? And I work for an organization called M. Brand Consulting Limited. I'm the humble servant. I'm the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer there. And I'm the creator of 2 models that business uses now to help clients, to work with clients all over African countries and globally. It's called the NVP model, which is the needs validation process model, and the PDP model, which is a pre-training, during training, post-training transfer effectiveness model. Go to our YouTube channel. We have so many videos there for you to, because we started this webinar since January this year, and so it has been a build up. So if you've not been attending, you will gain value, right? However, it will be very great that you go back and watch some of those videos to even know what it means. What does training effectiveness mean? What does training transfer mean? What does training transfer effectiveness mean? These are 3 different things, and they mean different things. Now, when we talk of return on investment, what is a return on expectation? So those, it will help you. It will also say, I also talked about training scrap, right? And we also talked about training scrap and what exactly training scrap is. Training scrap is that portion of training, either the skills or the knowledge that your employees got from training, and they went back to the organization, they did not apply. You know what scrap is? That's what it is. It is a training scrap. Waste. It's a waste of resources, waste of time, waste of money. And if you go also to our YouTube, you see where I talked about training scrap, what it is. So basically, what we do in this webinar is practical. I don't talk theory. You can go and read up theory anywhere. Go online. If you're good in researching, as I am, you will see a lot of resources online. So what we try to do in this webinars we've been having is to be practical. I use live case studies I've used with organizations. I just remove their name, use another name, so that, of course, for the privacy of the organization. So we're more about practical, because we want you to go back to your organizations and start applying whatever it is we've said, no matter how little it is. So we have people that have applied what we've taught, what we've said in this webinar, and they've seen value. So basically, that's it. Brastin, if you don't mind, do you want to put where you're joining in from and your role in your organization? Also, Lekando, if you don't mind, please do same too. Then, last but not the least, right. Thank you so much, Brastin. I call myself the pioneer of the TTE movement across Africa. What's the TTE movement? It's called the Training Transfer Effectiveness Movement. It's not anywhere in Nigeria. It's not anywhere in Africa. It's not anywhere globally. What you will see globally, not even in Africa, is transfer effectiveness, because one of the institutes I represent, the Institute for Transfer Effectiveness in Austria, I am their transfer enabler for Africa. So that's what one of the things you also hear about. And also, if you read about Professor Robert Brinkerhoff, he has talked about more of evaluation. He also talked about transfer. He also came up with a graphic representation of, for instance, you send 10 people to training, only 2 gets to apply it. 6 will try. They will stop because one or thing or that. So if you Google and read a bit, you could also find, and also even Kirkpatrick. I'm also one of their certified Kirkpatrick professional, the bronze level. I'm going on to the silver level. I'm starting in July, in 2 weeks, 13 days time, right? So, but in Africa, there's no one talking about training transfer effectiveness. So I'm proud and glad to say that you have a voice in Africa speaking about training transfer effectiveness, helping organizations to see how they can show return on investment and return on expectation for all their training investment, and I mean all. So I'm the pioneer of the TTE movement, the training transfer movement in across Africa. So that's a bit about myself. I think I see messages on okay, Braston is the L&D officer and is all the way from Zambia. Thank you, Braston. Likando, if that's okay, please also tell us where you're joining in from and your role. Now, so last week we said, so tell me, Braston, Likando, and Donald, tell me what you want us to do. Because I'm going to tell you where we started from. I don't know what to do now. Because you're not... Okay, Likando is my friend from Zambia. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, Braston, for inviting Likando. And what's his or her role? That would be nice to know. So last week... Yes, okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Oh, he has actually typed. I think he will run.
Okay, he has typed it. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm joining from Zambia. Okay, great. What's your role in the organization where you work? What's your role, if you don't mind? So now you will give me the solution. So last week we started talking about the return on investment and return on expectation of finance training. So what we've been doing is Q&A for the past 3 weeks, whereby people come up with their questions, so many questions, and I give solution to it. Okay, Likando is working as a capacity building officer. Thank you so much. And so we decided, so last week we had 2 different new people. We had I can't remember their names, pardon me please. So I told them, what should we do? I just finished, and that was last week. I did a webinar with the IFC. So I also am a facilitator with IFC. I'm a global master trainer with them. And they said, okay, let's talk about ROE and ROE. And they can also ask their questions. So that was what we did last week. So it was a continuation. We didn't get to finish it because there was no time again. And there were questions. So we're talking about ROI and ROE. And the video is there. So do you want me to just take questions from you, or should I continue from where we stopped? And you would also get to understand, even if wherever I start from. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I think you can just give a recap in 3-4 minutes. Maybe then you can continue from where you ended for the sake of progress.
Okay, thank you so much, Braston. I guess you're speaking for the rest. Welcome, Timothy. Timothy, you're welcome. Just type into chat where you're joining in from and your role in your organization where you work. What's your role? Okay, so thank you for that, Braston. So last week we were talking about return on investment and return on expectation. Now, because of the need of last week, so I'm a very flexible person. I believe that rigidity is a sign of weakness, while flexibility is a sign of strength. Even if I had what I had planned to do last week. However, because of the people in class and during the webinar, and they said, Sandra, we want you to do this. And so I had to go with them. And I told them, would you want me to take you something on return on investment and expectation? I said, yes, please. And we'll now ask questions. So what we are doing now is, I'm just going to recap a bit of what we talked about. Then I'll continue because there's already a video, and continue from where we stopped. Now we looked at ROE and ROE. And we started by saying a lot of organizations know what ROI is. So many don't. A lot. Okay, let me say a lot, yeah? So many don't know what ROE is. By the way, ROE is return on expectation. A lot of organizations will tell you, I want to see return on investment for our trading. They don't remember return on expectation. Now, you can have return on investment is quantifiable. It has to do with figures, numerical. Return on expectation is qualitative. It's not numerical. It has to do with the expectations of the stakeholders. Now, we've seen this. Organizations have met their targets, and yet those organizations are toxic. And yet the culture of those organizations are nothing to write home about. So you can see that they met their returns, they had the money, they had the revenue, and yet they are still having bleeding. The culture, nothing to write home about. The attrition rate, very high. Now, so you can have ROI, and yet your organization, people are resigning and people don't want to be in your organization. However, when you have ROI, which is return on expectation, and it is when stakeholder, CEOs, management will say, we want to see our leaders using coaching skills. We want to see our leaders delegate more. We want to see this place to be a place to be. People look forward to coming to work. These things are not return on investment. They are return on expectations for the training. These are qualitative. Now, because these are qualitative, when you have this, it will always, most often enough, you always have an ROI when you have ROE. So you can imagine an organization that have issues with culture, or they have issues with their climate, and they work with so there's a difference between climate and culture. If you also check on our YouTube, you see the difference. I will not be able to reiterate all the differences of things I've said. So you can imagine an organization having issues with culture, and they work on their culture. Now, people are accountable in the organization. People look forward to coming to work. People own their job. They own the process. So you can imagine that. What do you think will happen to the returns of the organization? I'm talking about numeric, the bottom line, numeric. Let me even ask this question. What do you think will happen? Let me see. I think I see something in chat. Within the long run, what do you think will happen? Okay, Timothy says, L&D professional joining from Kenya. Welcome, Timothy. Who wants to answer? What do you think will happen? Is there anybody that wants to answer? What do you think will happen? Anyone can go. You can unmute your microphone and answer. What do you think will happen? Anybody? Okay, nobody. Is nobody trying?
Hello, Sandra. Are you able to ask the question again? My internet is not stable. It keeps dropping me.
Okay. So I said I was trying to give the difference between return on investment and return on expectations. And I said that, so for instance, you have an organization whereby they have issues with their culture, right? And they worked on their culture, and people have the ownership mentality. People are not just employees. They see themselves as owners of the business. People are ready to give their best. People delegate. They don't micromanage. What do you think will happen to the revenue of such organization? Will it, within a short time, will it reduce, will it increase, or it will just be static, nothing will happen? What do you think? I don't know if we got the question now.
Yeah, I think, I've gotten the I think much of the part of the question. Obviously, the revenues of the business, if I may use that word, will surely go up, because I think we will see that the morale within the business or within the organization will be high.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Braston. I can see Emmanuel. Emmanuel, your hand is up, please. Go ahead.
All right, Coach. Good evening.
Yeah, hi. Welcome.
Thank you for the opportunity. All right. So I think that there is a principle that states that high investment breeds high commitment. High investment breeds high commitment. When people realize that they've invested something in, this training, those of us who understand the importance of what we are doing, although it's for free, we think we are investing time, so we commit ourselves to it. Those who don't pay anything, when people don't pay things, they don't commit to it. And so it's the same way when people feel part owners of an organization, you realize that our commitment level increases. And when commitment goes high, performance goes high, and then returns automatically skyrockets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Braston. Thank you, Emmanuel. That's it. So when you work on return on expectation, you would definitely get return on investment. Somehow you will. Especially even if you're not even being intentional about it. So you can imagine if you're more intentional about it. So what I was trying to say is, when you have return on expectation, invariably you will have return on investment. However, we found out that when organizations that just aim for return on investment, those organizations have problems. They don't have return on expectation because you're meeting your numbers, you're meeting your target, and yet you're having a high attrition rate. If you check those numbers, by the time you check the amount you're using to go and recruit people again, people keep leaving. Every now and then you're recruiting more people. Do you know what? Just as some organizations, they are not quantifying that. Check the recruitment, the cost for recruitment. Check the cost or even the time for recruitment. That's the time. That's the money wasted. So what we said last week was, so we looked at return on investment, return on expectation. We looked at the characteristics between return on investment and return on expectation. We looked at 5. There are 10. You're going to look at the remaining 5. We talked about that return on investment is more numerical, is quantifiable, while return on expectation is more qualitative. It's not quantifiable, it's qualitative. It's more the expectation of the stakeholder. So that was just a bit of what we looked at, and we took questions. So today we are going further to continue what return on investment and return on expectation. So I'll just take my slide quickly to where we started from, so that I would not be repeating myself again. Great. So this is where we stopped last week. Now, I was saying last week, I said there are 2 lenses for proving your training value, and that's return on investment and return on expectation. Now, we looked at this last week. We looked at the data source, where you can get data, what's the challenge in return on investment, what is the challenge on return on expectation. We looked at this. I think the last thing, this was where we're supposed to go to, which is how return on expectation sets the stage for return on investment. So this is now practical. Now, an organization, so let me use an organization, Emmanuel and Braston Limited, a Ghana-Zambia organization. They have their headquarters in Zambia, and they have their headquarters in Zambia, but they also have a branch in Ghana. Now, the organization, the head, they said they want increased trust from leadership. That was one of the return on expectation when they sent their people on training, the managers on training. They said, we want there to be an increased trust from leadership. Now, this was what happened after the training. This is return on expectation. They said they wanted increased trust from leadership. Now, what does increased trust mean? So when defining this, for the training they are about to be sent, they will define this in quantifiable terms, in measurable terms, so they will be able to measure it. Now, they said one of the things they was an indices for increased trust from leadership was that the senior managers will stop cross-checking every report. Every report they get, they will stop cross-checking every report, and rather they will delegate more confidently. So that was what happened after the training. And guess what the returns was? The organization saved $2.5 million by end of Q2. How did they do that? Sorry, excuse me. I'm so sorry, please. Let me, I'll stop my video. Let me take water. I'm having a bit of coffee. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you. So, looking at it, what were they able to do? They were able to save 2.5 million by end of Q2. And how did they do that? They made sure they reduced duplicated efforts, unnecessary rechecks, and overtime. So due to report delays, they were able to cut off all this thing. No duplication of effort. You know that we find out that a lot of managers are doing what their direct report should be doing. Why? Maybe because there's no confidence. They don't trust them. They are micromanaging. And because of that, instead of a work that should be finished in, like, let's say 2 days, the work is finished in 4 days, sometimes a week, because the manager wants to check everything. Now, this organization had this training and said one of the things an ROE they want to see is that there's an increased trust from leadership. And when they were able to achieve that, see what happened to ROI. So that's why I'm saying ROE can set the stage from ROI. ROI is measured in how much did we save? Did we reduce cost? Did we gain revenue? That's what ROI does. It's either talking about money saved, is that talking about cost reduced, or is that talking about revenue earned? That's what ROI talks about. But what does ROE talk about? What is ROE looking at? ROE is looking at what is a stakeholder saying, what is their satisfaction, what is stakeholder looking at? Are they looking at strategic alignment? Do they want behavioral change? What exactly is that they want? So that's the difference between ROI and ROE. So if you can imagine, when they asked for, when we say increased trust from leadership, it means that some people will look at it. What does that mean? How can you measure that? But you can measure that. How do you measure that? Breaking down to what exactly do we want to see? Do we want to see the managers do? What? Now, we found that in this organization that because of lack of trust, because the managers could not trust what their direct reports were doing, it was reducing the workflow, it was duplicating the work, it was making the leaders what they should be doing strategically, they could not do it strategically. Rather, what were they doing? They were concentrating on the operational thing instead of concentrating on strategic thing. But when they were able to do this, what did this do? The trust was able to accelerate the workflow. The trust was able to, because they trusted in what they were doing, workflow was accelerated, duplication was reduced, it freed the time for the leaders to do strategic things, high value things, which led to cost saving. And that was the cost saving I'm showing you. It led to over 2.5 million saved by the end of Q2. Please feel free to ask questions. In this webinar, we don't wait till the end. Feel free to ask questions as we are going. Now let's look at the second one. Greater ownership mindset among, this was what they said, one of the stakeholder expectation, what they expected, that they wanted there to be greater ownership mindset among, was for a finance webinar. So I'm gonna, whatever you see, whenever you see finance, please, which was what I told them last week, put any other training you want to put there. Now, greater ownership, what does that mean? What does that mean? Now, when we talked about senior managers, for them to stop cross-checking everything, try to delegate more often to the people. Now, with that, when they were able to, the trust increased amongst them, between themselves and their staff. Now, what happened to ownership? People now started owning things. They were able to identify inefficiencies. People took ownership of the job. They were able to propose corrections. They were not waiting for their senior managers to tell them, hey, Emmanuel, do this. Timothy, do this. Braston, do this. Likando do this. No, they were taking ownership. They were, without being prompted, they were doing what they felt needed to be done. They were able to identify all the inefficiencies in the processes. They were able to identify it. And when they identified, they didn't just identify it, stop at there. They were able to propose corrections. Now, what happened to that? What was the ROI there? There was a 75% reduction in external consultant costs. Because before, all this work, they were giving it to consultants. They were giving it to consultants. So as a result of that, the consultant costs reduced, because now a lot of people in your organization, they can do this work, but they allow you to give it to consultant because they don't have ownership. They are not ready to stress themselves. They just want an 8 to 5 job. They can do it. And that's what we've seen in various organizations. Right? So this is one of the things. So this is what ROE does. Your ROE will always set the stage for ROI. Now let's look at the third one. The third one talked about better internal client satisfaction. This was between the finance department and other business units. Now, they were having a challenge with the finance department. The finance department, have you ever had issues with your finance department that whenever they are giving you instead of them to give you your report in something you understand, they give you in a complex way whereby you don't even understand what they're saying. And because you don't understand, it will take you time. When you're going to meet them, can they explain? They'll be telling you they are busy, and time is going. Now, this organization, the business units were able to now receive their reports and even their data timely. They were able to understand the data that the finance team were sending to them. And with that, what happened? They were able to make decisions quicker and there were less delays. Now, let's look at the return on investment for them. They saved $125,000 in productivity gains. So by the end of Q2, 5 business units collectively saved over 5,000 staff hours, which was pegged at $25 per hour. Do the maths, you see you get $125,000. 5 business units in the business. They were able to what? Collectively save 5,000 staff hours. And those staff hours were pegged at $25 per hour. So times that, $25 times 5,000 times 5 business units. That was how they were able to gain $125,000 in productivity gains. This is the ROI. But where did it start from? It started from an ROE. So because the business units were happy, the ROE was internal client satisfaction. They wanted the internal client to be happy, to be satisfied with the work from finance. And this was what finance was able to achieve with them. And the issue was that finance was not giving them their financial data in a timely okay, I see your hands up, I'm coming, Emmanuel. Was not giving them their financial data in a way they will understand it. They were not receiving it timely, and so with that, decision making was difficult and there were so many delays. So let me pause there. Emmanuel has a question. Emmanuel, let me hear you, please unmute your microphone. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Coach Sandra.
Yes, please.
So, from the explanation so far, I realize that if you don't state your return of expectation right, ROE right, it will not reflect on the ROI. Is that right?
You are very, very correct. How did you get that and you were not in the class last week? Because I talked about that in the class last week.
Because you're a good teacher. You were explaining it today. So you're explaining it very well today. So I want to find out who states the ROE. Is it senior man, business owners, HR, or is it a team of people who really define and who finds the problem? Who is the one responsible for finding the problem before the training to state the return on expectation?
Beautiful. Now it's a joint. I started with the I talked about the PDP model, one of the model we designed. It's a joint thing between the business leaders, those that are asking for the training, and the HR or L&D, whichever. Some organization is HR that handles training, some organization is L&D that handles training. So all the stakeholders, those guys, and I call them the sponsors, training sponsors, those that are asking for the training, the HR, and even those that will attend the training, the trainees, all of you jointly agree on what the return on expectation will be. So what we see is business leaders will tell HR, I want to send my staff on, let's say this for instance, I want to send Timothy on a training on audits. Immediately, HR starts looking for a training organization where they will send Timothy on training on audits without asking questions, without even designing when Timothy comes back from that training in audit or in auditing, what will Timothy be able to do? Now, what is Timothy able to do now? So when he comes back, when he applies this thing, he will learn. We will be able to measure. We'll be able to measure, then evaluate that, yes, this training Timothy has done has really translated. He has applied it, something has happened. Now, one of the challenges we find in ROE and ROI, which is what I said, I taught last week, which you got, is in ROE, we do not get people that are able to define very well, clearly, what their expectations from in any training their staff is going to. So if you're unable to define the expectations, you will not be able to measure or evaluate your ROE. Same thing, ROI, where they get it easy is because it's numbers. But even when you get the numbers, if you don't get the clean data, you will not be able to know the difference in the numbers. Where, okay, we had 40, okay, see, how was this company able to get 75% reduction? Because they were able to note the numbers where it was before. And they're able to say, okay, this is what we've now reduced. We now have a 75% reduction from, if we were paying this thing 100, so at least we've gotten 75% reduction in our cost, because they knew what their cost was before they went for this training. So it's a joint ownership, stakeholder engagement. In our PDP model, the pre-phase, that is what we call the stakeholder engagement, where they all come together and agree what it should be. What should be the ROE? What should be the ROI? ROE also, what are the behaviors we want to see when these people come back? What should change when they come back in respect to skills? How would they be helped to ensure that they apply this? So there are many things that must be discussed at the pre-phase in order to achieve return on investment or return on expectation. I don't know if this helps you. Okay, Manu, I hope that helps you. I can't hear you. I hope that helps you. Okay, so let me move ahead. I guess it has helped him. So let me move ahead. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, thank you so much,
Listen.
Emmanuel. Okay, thank you. Okay, I see something on chat. Let me just quickly read it. Thanks. Okay, for me, Emmanuel. You're welcome. So now let's look at the fourth one. Now, they talked about the ROE they wanted to see was increased confidence in audits. And what did they mean by that? Now, external auditors, they used to have external auditors that come to look at their books. Now, because the finance people did not know how to, they were not confident, they did not know how to do their audits, let me put it like that as well. When the external auditors come, they will spend much time. There are some things you're supposed to do. For if you're a finance person, there are things you're supposed to do even before the external auditor comes. So you can imagine that the finance persons were supposed to do, they do not do it. When the external auditors come, they'll be looking at it again, asking unnecessary questions. The things you're supposed to do, asking question, why is it not here? Why didn't you do it? Instead of them coming to do what they are supposed to do, they will go back again. So with that, what happened? There was so much time was being wasted. So now, what they were able to achieve was external auditors spend less time questioning submissions due to clearer documentation. So the documentation was clear. Now, these external auditors were paid per day. So let's look at the return on investment. $15,000 was saved. Audit duration reduced by 3 days, cutting external audit fees at $5,000 per day. So every day they were paying their auditors $5,000, the external auditors. And so the external auditors will spend, like, let's say maybe 5 days or 7 days. That's how much? $35,000. But by the time their documentation was very clear, and the external auditors didn't need to ask questions. So for instance, a work the external auditor was supposed to do for one day, but because of so many questions, the documentations were not clear, they would take like 2 or 3 days to do that work. And every day they spend with you, you pay them. Because it's not their business. You're the one giving them, making the work more burdensome, more cumbersome, because what they were supposed to do, they did not do. But when they were able to do what they were supposed to do, what happened? They cut time. And now, because the finance people, they had confidence in audit, they were able to do their documentation. Their documentation were clearer, and so they were able to save money for the organization. I don't know if you're seeing this now. So if you look at the title, it said, how ROE sets the stage for ROI. So return on expectation, if you're able to clearly define your ROE, invariably you will get ROI. So you define what you want to see, you define the metrics you're going to use to measure, and definitely you will see ROI. I don't know, let me pause here. Is there any question, or should I go ahead? At this point in time, are there questions? Okay, I can't see any hands up and I can't see anything in chat. So let me move ahead. So what is the problem? Let me ask now. Why are a lot of businesses not seeing ROI and ROE? What's the problem? Is there anybody that wants to share with us? What's the problem? What really is the problem? This is supposed to be a conversation, not me just talking and lecturing. Who wants to share? Emmanuel. Okay, Emmanuel, please go ahead. But Timothy, Donald, Braston, I also like to hear from you people, please. But Emmanuel, however, Emmanuel, go ahead, please.
Okay, so from my view, I think there are no intentionality in looking for results. So people want results, but they are not intentional about what they should do to get them.
That's a big one. I love that. No intention. I like that. So maybe I'm gonna tweet that. So please take note of that. I think I'll use it on my LinkedIn post tomorrow. Samson, take note of that. Emmanuel, and I will give it to you, Emmanuel. He says that people want results. However, there is no intentionality to get that result. Is that what you said? Did I get it right?
Yes, please. Yes, please, Auntie.
Emmanuel, you're going to appear in my post tomorrow, in my LinkedIn post.
Hey. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's what it is. People really want results, but there's no intentionality to get that result. They are not ready to work to get that result. This is what the question I ask. What is blocking your training from driving ROI and ROE?
Yeah, maybe I can also just add on what Emmanuel has commented. Very valid.
Please, go ahead.
The other thing that I think I've observed is lack of understanding the processes. I don't know in other parts of the continent, but like in Zambia, I feel there's still so much room to learn, especially matters pertaining to return on investment, more especially return on expectation, which I think it's a new, like here, I think it's a new philosophy, if I may use that word, because I think in many organizations, people just know that, okay, when you are arranging for trainings, or let's say when you are going through the learning needs analysis process, as you interact with different stakeholders within the business, they'll expect definitely to have expectations, but like putting it as you have clearly outlined and explained, return on expectation, it's something that I think the world or many countries, many businesses will need to hear and understand. So I see that there is lack of knowledge on this subject. But I think in some circles I've heard people not really going an extra mile to in terms of reaching the higher levels of evaluating trainings. A lot of organizations just go maybe up to level 3, but very few organizations would love to invest in learning more about a return on investment. So bringing up return on expectation is a very timely undertaking. I think that will really help a lot of practitioners in training, learning and development, so that many businesses and organizations can just understand this. So I would point as lack of know-how and knowledge. There's knowledge gap in this topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Braston. And you just hit the nail on the head. You and Emmanuel are just awesome. You just hit the nail on the head. A lot of people do not have the knowledge. And by the way, return on expectation is not a new philosophy. It's been there. Just that a lot of people don't know about it. It's been there for years. Kirkpatrick, they talked about return on expectation. One of their books, Training on Trial. Let me see if you'll be able to see this book. I talked about it last week. Let me put on my video. And I don't know, because I have a background. Let me see. Sandra. Oh, okay. Yes, I'm getting it there. See it. Yes, I'm sure you can see it. Training on Trial. This was a book written years ago by Kirkpatrick. Let me see when it was written. And they talked about ROE. So ROE is not today. ROE has been since. This is as far back as more than 10 years ago by Wendy and Jim. Right? But a lot, even in their book, 4 levels. On their book, 4 levels of evaluation, which was what Braston was talking about. Braston talked about level 3. I'm sure some persons that don't know it, you'll be wondering what is level 3. What is Braston talking about? So there are 4 levels of evaluation. Level 3 is where Braston talked about behavior. Level 4 is the business result. I see your hand, Timothy. I'm coming. Is a business result. So a lot of people, even Braston, a lot of organizations stop in 1 and 2, level 1 and 2. Level 1 is reaction. Exactly. Were we satisfied? Exactly. How was the food? Exactly. How was the venue? How was the facilitator? Number 2, level 2. Level 2 is knowledge and skill. They do a post assessment after training, and people scored 85. We want them to score 85%, and a lot of people scored 85%. Some scored 90. It ends there. That's a lot of people stop in level 1 and level 2. It's even some that get to level 3. Then very few get to level 4. So it's you just hit the nail on the head. Before I continue, I see Timothy's hand was up. Timothy, please feel free. Please unmute your microphone.
Thank you. I just wanted to add on to what Braston was saying. Ideally, I feel that the problem is more about the reason why we are not able to achieve the ROE and ROI is just doing trainings without following the training cycle, without having the expectations and the objectives. Because if you don't start with the end in the mind, then at the end of the day, like you've just talked about it, how are you going to apply the Kirkpatrick's technical model to get to gauge whether you've achieved your goal? So I think that is where the problems comes in. Thank you.
you so much, Timothy. You're right on. It seems I have firebrand people. Samson, we have firebrand people today in the webinar. Thank you so much, Timothy. You also hit the nail on the head. Some don't even, let me shock you people. I was at a training for senior leaders. I trained them, and I was asking them some questions. Their objectives were far from smart. There was another group I was hearing, they were saying, we want our supervisors to supervise well. I said, what does that mean? What do you mean by you want your supervisors to supervise well? What does that mean? So can you see, even the objectives are not smart. You cannot even quantify those objectives. You cannot measure them. How do you now want to evaluate what you cannot measure? Right? So that's, Emmanuel, I see your question. I'll come to your question on the chat. So you've all hit the nail on the head, right? So what is blocking your training from driving ROI and ROE? And I wrote, if you can see in that diagram, I said, most trainings fail not because it was poorly delivered, but it wasn't designed to transfer. I'll take that again. Most trainings fails not because it was poorly delivered, because most of the trainings are awesome, 100%, 10 over 10. Great trainers, great facilitators. People are having fun, jumping and say, this is the best training I've ever had. When they go back to the workplace, everybody goes to their status quo. They go back to their normal life. Everything goes back to that status quo. So the problem is not the delivery. The problem is that right from beginning, just what three of you all said, transfer was not embedded into the design of the training. So I usually say, it's not that your training isn't working. No, it's not that your training isn't working. It's just that you can't prove that it is working. And what you can't prove, stakeholders will start to question. And that's why they would always go to your training budget, because you can't prove it, and they'll start wondering, why are we spending millions on training annually? Why? I rather give that to the sales team. HR, you can see what we are costing ourselves, HR and L&D. I rather give that to the sales team. Let them turn that millions into double, either by 50% or 70%. Why will I give it to you people? So most stakeholders are seeing training as a cost, not an investment. And we need to start changing that narrative. As HR, as L&D, as trainers, that narrative must change. Training is not a cost. Training is an investment. The real reason your training isn't being taken seriously, this is the real reason. Let's look at it. No measurement plan. This is what people have said. No measurement plan. You didn't plan to measure. They didn't plan to measure at all. So no measurement plan. They didn't plan to measure. Don't forget what I said about whenever you see finance, put another training you want to do. So many training are delivered without a defined plan to measure its outcome. There's no measurement plan at all. Why is your training not being taken seriously again? No stakeholder alignment. No stakeholder alignment. And what does that mean? Trainers often don't clarify, what do senior leaders actually expect for the program? What do they want to see? What do CEOs, the stakeholders, what do they want to see in this amount they are spending every year, annually? What are those things they want to see? L&D, they're having their own goals and objectives. Stakeholder management are having their own. So trainers, so when there's no alignment, there is a problem already. There's a problem already. Now, again, what's the problem again? No follow-up after training. There's no follow-up after training. Nobody's talking about the application, how we are going to do, what is going to happen after the training. Once the training is over, application and support stops once the training ends. Leaving results. You're leaving results to chance. And this is what I keep saying. When what you don't measure, you can't prove. And what you can't prove, you cannot protect. I'll take that again. What you don't measure, you cannot prove. And what you cannot prove, you cannot protect. And that is why you cannot say anything when they decide to cut your to take your training budget. Can't say anything because you can't prove. And because you did not plan to measure, you will not be able to prove. Did you even ask leaders, what does success look like if these people attend this training? What does success look like? We don't even know about that. What does success look like? Have you had that conversation with them and saying, what does success look like to you? In this training, what will it look like? Do we ask the leaders after the workshop or after the training, how can I support you? How will you support your people? How will you support them? So in other words, most times people focus more on the training, on the events. They forget the entire experience. People are focused on, we should make sure we have enough food, we have a good venue. They are focused on the event and they forget the experience. I usually say, please quote me anywhere. Training gets respect only when it gets results. But you can't get results that you did not plan for. I'll take that again. So please quote me anywhere. Training gets respect only when it gets results. But you cannot get results you didn't plan for. So what should you do? Plan for your results. So I'm going to move a bit faster now to ensure we finish this. So proven tools to rescue you. So have some tools that you can use to help you. I don't know if you've heard about the Kirkpatrick. Preston has heard about. Is there any other person has heard about the Kirkpatrick, the New World Kirkpatrick model? I call it the confidence builder. See it, level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. Level 1, which was what Braston and I were talking about. Level 1 is reaction. Participants said the session was practical and it was directly relevant to their reporting tasks, to what they want to learn. Finish, engagement, relevance, customers they were satisfied, they were happy. That's what level 1 does. Now, I said I now have a clear structure to evaluate training step by step. So this is a clear structure for you that you can use to evaluate your training step by step. Level 1 asks, did they find the training useful? I already explained that. Yes, they found it useful. It was useful, it was practical, it was relevant to what they were doing. Now we go to level 2, which is knowledge, the learning. Did they actually learn? Did they actually learn? Level 2 has to do with knowledge. Did they gain the knowledge we wanted, the skills, confidence, commitment, attitude? Did they actually learn? So L2 says, for instance, we needed 80%. So 80% of participants, they were able to explain or they were able to define leadership. That's what we wanted to. That at the end of 80% should be able to define what leadership is. And they did that. We end there. That's level 2. But is that going to give you ROI and ROE? No. Level 3. Are they applying it? Which is behavior. Now see, so this is the new work Kirkpatrick. If you check Kirkpatrick model, you will not see this. You just see the 4 levels. You will not see it explained here. So this was a new world Kirkpatrick model whereby Jim and Wendy, their husband and wife. Jim is the son of the Kirkpatrick himself that started it. And so what Jim and Wendy did was to make it much better, which they brought out the new world Kirkpatrick model. So in the level 3, he's talking about behavior. How do you monitor the behavior? How do you reinforce the behavior? How do you encourage the behavior? How do you reward the behavior? So do you have a reward system whereby people that apply what they learned in training, you give them a reward so that you can encourage other people to see, when you're applying what you're learning, if you're applying what you're learning, this is what you tend to get. Do you reward? So a behavior will be like 2 weeks after the training, we gave them a template to use, a reporting template. They are using it and they started using it. That is what level 3. Now level 4 is it creating results? And this is where stakeholders, CEOs, management, they are really interested. Is it creating results? What are the leading indicators? What is the desired outcome of the business? What is the business and strategic impact? So for instance, our organization says we want our monthly report to drop by 40%. We want our monthly reporting errors. Let it drop by 40%. We are having 80% errors every month. Let it drop by 40%. It's the result the business is looking at. And how can that help them? Because it will help the audit to be ready. And they will improve in their audit reporting, their audit readiness score. It will improve. So this is what Kirkpatrick model looks at. It helps you move from the nice to the necessary. But we found out that where people stop, a lot of people stop in level 1. That's where most people stop. The training was good. We rated the training 4.8/5. It was relevant to what we wanted to do. But is that what the business wants? Level 2, they tell you, 80% of the participants passed. We wanted them to be able to get 80% pass in the post assessment. They got that. Is that what would shift? But level 3 is where the shift begins. There's an actual change in behavior. We said we want our team to be using the reporting template, and with that, they should be, as they are using the reporting template, the error will reduce. And with that, they found out that 60% error reduced. Then level 4 is what leadership wants. What is the proof that business results improve because of the training? What is the proof? I'm going to give you one for the organization. The organization said for the first time in over a year, the team submitted monthly reports before the expected time. And what was the expected time? The expected time was that by the 5th of every month, monthly reports will be submitted. So for the first time in over a year, the team, they were able to submit their monthly reports before the 5th of every month for 3 months at a stretch. And you know what that means to the business. Okay, I see a message again. Okay, Manuel, I think every company needs to create a training transfer department. I think HRs can really be overwhelmed by these transfer details in order to see results. What do you think, Sandra? I will come to your questions. Let me be fast and so I can answer these 2 questions. These are powerful questions. I don't want to take us so much time. I will come to your questions, Emmanuel. You're asking powerful questions here, Emmanuel. So if you stop at level 1 or 2, you are telling a training story. Please take note of that. If you stop at level 1 or level 2, you're telling a training story. And that is what HRs are doing and L&Ds. They stop at level 1 and level 2. They keep telling a training story. Stop telling a training story. How does the training impact the business? What is the concrete impact on the business? Now, see, if you get to level 3 and level 4, you are telling a business story. These are the behaviors that change. This is the impact on the business. The business now has improved business agility. Departments can now act on financial data that reduces delay in procurement, in hiring or marketing campaigns. There's stronger reputation with external stakeholders. If reports are needed for regulators, investors, or board meetings, early submission signal credibility and control. There's cost avoidance. Late reporting often leads to escalation, penalties, or poor cash flow. Timely reporting eliminates this risk. Because of that, we've been able to avoid costs. Managerial confidence has increased. Leaders now spend less time chasing reports or making decisions with incomplete data. By doing that, they are able to free up their time and they reduce decision fatigue. Can you see the level 4, the business story you're telling? As a result of the training, this is what has happened. There's managerial confidence, there's cost avoidance, there's stronger reputation with stakeholders, and there's improved business agility. When you say this, won't your business leaders listen to you? Won't your CEO listen to you? But what are you people saying? You people are saying the training was good. The employees said they loved the training. What is that? They love the training. So what? What does loving the training mean? How does that add to the bottom line of the business? How does that increase the revenue for the business? How does that help the business to achieve its objectives? That the training was good. And so what? Please forgive me if I'm sounding. I can be so passionate when it comes to this because it's very, very painful. I'm a business owner, and as I understand so well. I understand the headache CEOs are having that a lot of employees do not understand. able to give this high-level report, you can see that the CEO, they will sit up. Stakeholders will sit up to listen to you. Let's move ahead. Please feel free. We're going to ask that remaining to answer those two questions. So let me just hurry up. Another framework, I told you that there are two. Okay, we're not here. Last week, I told them that there are two frameworks and a model that I will share with them. This is what I use, and I use with my clients. I've shared the first one with you, which is the 4 levels of Kirkpatrick evaluation. I've shared that with you. This is the second one I use. There's no need reinventing the wheel. I don't believe in reinventing wheel. Even the model I created were based on these frameworks that have been there, tried and tested. So why are you reinventing the wheel when you can just lean on the shoulders of those that have been there before you? I don't reinvent wheel. I lean on the shoulders of those that have been there before me. The models I created took me over 14 years. I tested, I was testing, researching, going for certification, learning more, asking questions, testing it out on clients. This is how I kept doing that until I was able to get the 2 models we are using for organizations now. So the next framework I want to share with you is what we call the 12 levers of transfer effectiveness. When you use these 2 frameworks and then use the PDP model, you will definitely get ROI and ROE. Now, what is this framework talking about? 12 levers of transfer effectiveness. It was started by Dr. Ihenacho. These 12 levers are around these 3 things: the trainees, the training design, and the organization. I've already talked about this before, so I will just skip through it. Go and read about this too. Now, the 12 levers says, I now know what conditions make training stick. So I'm going to focus on this for finance training. Clarity of expectations. Go and read it up. Go and help. But clarity of expectations, what it does, these are one of the levers. It defines the success, what the trainees and the managers want to see. Defines it. And before the training, you're clear about it. Another of the lever we have is opportunities for application. Have you seen people that have gone for training and they came back? What they went to learn, they don't have the opportunity to apply it. I don't know if it has happened in your organization. A lot of clients has complained about this. Employees, they say they went for training and when they came back, they are not applying. So why did they send them on training? You send someone to go and learn Python. The person comes by, the person cannot apply what the person learned. There must be opportunities for what? For application, whereby your people can apply whatever it is they are learning. And that's in the 12 levers. That's the 8th lever, is the 8th one. But you can read up on this more and you will get more. The another one is manager support. Do managers ensure that they reinforce learning? So even before the training, the managers will say that they will be able to support their people to apply what they are learning. This is the 10th lever. Lever 10, support from supervisors. And the last one I'm going to share with you is transfer motivation, which is the very first lever. Are you promoting the training in a way that the trainees will have by the time they are finishing, even before they finish training, they have a very strong desire that when they finish this training, they want to implement what they learn. So these levers are 12, but I just decided to share 4. Please go and read up the remaining to really help you. So the first one, which is clarity of expectation, is what we call the 4th lever. The 8th one, opportunities for application, is what I call is the 8th lever. Then the manager support is the 10th lever, and the transfer motivation is the very first lever. So these are, you can see, I now know what conditions make training stick. You must be able to create conditions that training will stick. And last but not the least, the model I want to share with you. This is where I bring in my own tested and proven model. The PDP model. Pre-training, during training, post-training transfer effectiveness model. Now, there are 3 phases of training. And what I've noticed a lot of organizations do is that they focus only on the 2nd phase, which is the during phase. If you want to see ROI and ROE for all your training investments, you must focus on the 3 phases: the pre-phase, the during phase, and the post phase. So from training to transformation, applying the PDP model. So you apply this model to all your finance training and you will really come back to thank me that you really did it. The preface, you can see if you look at it, it's talking about the preface. So very quickly, I'll just talk about it. It says, which is where most training fail. So before you deliver any training, ask, what does success look like? What will the stakeholders care about when this is over? Can I track what they're going to care about? If you don't align with stakeholders at this stage, you're already behind time. During phase, how do we make training stick? Don't use generic examples. Use languages that has to do with the challenges. Use tools that will solve the problems for them. Build simulations, build gamifications, use case studies that has to do with the job relevance. If it is not relevant to their job, they won't transfer, period. And last but not the least is the post-training phase, which is the deliver proof. We've already built in the support, the mechanism right from pre-phase. Now we collect the right data to use in valuation. For instance, we are talking about beauty for reporting errors. Was there a drop in reporting errors? Did the reports arrive early? Did the audit team notice improvement? Did they get the voice of the CFO, the finance manager, or the head of compliance? That is all ROE in action. So you must build this. You must build transfer into the pre-phase, the during phase, and the post-phase. If you don't plan to transfer, you are planning to scrap. That is my quote. If you don't plan to transfer, you're planning to scrap. So start planning to transfer. And so we are coming to the end of this webinar. Creating a report that speaks to management. What gets measured gets funded. I hope you agree with me. Whatever gets measured gets funded. So let's be very honest. If it is not measurable, it is not defendable. Yeah? If it is not measurable, it is not defendable. Now let's look at one impact report I created. Let's look at it. See it. Your training value is not in the slides, it is in the shift it produces. If your report doesn't show results, you are just telling stories. Show proof, show value. If your report doesn't show results, you are just telling stories. Show proof, show value. That's a quote by me. See this report by the impact report by this organization. Return on expectation, they said there was an increase in trust. The CFO now delegates reporting tasks without rechecking. There was a greater ownership mindset. Staff identify and resolve problems independently without coming to the CFO or coming to their senior managers. There was better internal client satisfaction. Business units received faster and clearer responses to their financial queries. Now, what was the ROI? Can you see where you start in creating your report? You start with the ROE, which is the stakeholders' expectation. Then you go to ROI. $120,000 in annual savings, reduced over time after implementing a streamlined monthly reporting process. $15,000 were saved. Audit duration was shortened by 3 days, reducing consultancy fees. You now put a comment. On-time reporting has eliminated the need for weekend reports, significantly boosting team morale. Stakeholders now have commended finance for more accurate and timely insights. These results illustrate the strong impact of finance training on operational efficiency and financial outcomes. Tell me if you give this impact report like this organization did. Tell me which CEO will not listen to you. Tell me which stakeholder that will not listen to you. Tell me which management that will not listen to you. You walk into the office, you show that errors dropped, you show that reports came in on time, you show that there were fewer flagged issues during audits. Then you are no longer just a trainer, you're a strategic contributor. So any training report that focuses only on attendance, and that is what HR and LR did, that is what people are doing, no? A lot of your reports on your training report is on attendance, is on the test score, they scored 85%, is on satisfaction survey. It won't cut anything. You need to speak in outcomes. You need to speak in outcomes. You need to speak like how we are speaking here. There was a risk reduction, You give the percentage, there was a reduction in error rate, there was a compliance gain, there was increase in productivity. So this is how you should be talking. So this is what you should include in your reports, your training impact report. Use real numbers, include short punchy insights from supervisors or the heads, those who witness the change. Make sure you include it and present it with clean visuals. And keep your report short. Don't go and give 5 pages of reports. No, give an executive summary, very short. Make sure your summary is hitting the strategic outcomes clearly. Your management doesn't need to flip to page, flip over page 1 or go to page 2 to articulate what's changed. No, looking at page 1, they should be able to articulate what's changed. And this is very important because when you report strategically, you don't just justify the training, you expand your influence in the organization. How many of you HR and L&D has influence in your organization? Can you beat your chest and say, yes, I have influence in my organization? A lot of you don't. A lot don't. Why? Because you're talking training story. Stop speaking training story. Stock business story. That is what you should be talking. And so we are wrapping up now. So I don't want to, so these are post-webinar tools. So this, if you want this tool, I will share with you. In the webinar I did with IFC, I shared it with them. So just something, drop my email address. Or no, follow me on LinkedIn. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, that's how. Follow me on LinkedIn. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, that's one. Then secondly, send me an email that you would want to get this, then I'll send it to you. So follow me on LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn, send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll give you my email address. Then you tell me that I want this and I'll send it to you. These are the post tools you can use. So I don't want to leave you today with only inspiration. I want to leave you with tools that you would use. You can start using these tools. And I want to wrap up here so that I can take questions. I'm looking at the time now, so I can take questions. We're already running out of time. So these are tools you can start using. Start proving your impacts. Tools to help you to begin. Now, one is the ROI and ROE planning templates. I said, don't look at finance training. You can use it for any training, right? This was for a finance webinar. I can also share this with you. The PDP implementation checklist. I have that template ready. I can also share one-page training impact report template, just like what you saw. I can share that with you too. Then stakeholders feedback template. I can share that with you. So you can request for any of them by connecting with me on LinkedIn. So that's my LinkedIn, my LinkedIn page. Then send me an email at sandra@mbrandconsultinggroup.com and I'll share that with you. So that's my LinkedIn page. Send me an email there. So these are templates and trackers that can help your organization prove the impact in their training. So request for any of them. I used to tell people, start small. Choose one tool, apply it in your next training. You'll be amazed at how quickly you gain visibility and credibility. And on this note, training gets respect when it gets results. Evidence. Stop focusing on the event. Start designing for the evidence. Stop focusing on the event. Start designing for the evidence. I'll leave you with this. Training will only be respected at the highest level of your organization when it consistently delivers business results. Not just good feedback, not just attendance score, not just survey, but real, visible, strategic outcomes. And you know what the good news is? Is that you now have the frameworks and the models. I gave you 2 frameworks and I gave you 1 model. I gave you 2 frameworks and I gave you a model. Now you have the framework, you have the model, you have the mindset, you have the tools to make that happen. But my only question to you is, are you going to apply it? A lot of people have been coming to this webinar and they've been hearing, say, they are pumped up, but at the end they don't apply. If you don't apply, you'll be where you are. Are you going to apply it? Because the respect you are seeking isn't given. It is earned through impact. Let me tell you, the respect you're seeking as HR, the respect you're seeking as L&D, the respect you're seeking as trainer isn't given. It is earned, and it is earned through impact. The respect I'm getting in the training space now is because I've earned it. I'm speaking the language of telling people about training transfer effectiveness, and people are seeing it. Businesses are seeing it. And so that is why I'm getting respect. I've earned it and I'm earning it. So now, earn it through what? Impact. And lastly, I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with me in this webinar. And I hope you leave with more than ideas I've given you. I hope you leave with a mandate to prove the value of your training. Now, if you are serious about leading the shift in your organization, I want to introduce you to this program, the Mastermind program. It's starting in 12 days' time. It is called the Mastermind program. It is for you. It's an 18 weeks program only for that equips HR and L&D leaders to prove and present ROI and ROE with confidence. It was a program I created. Here, we're not going to theorize. We're going to implement. You're going to track and we'll show results. So feel free to connect with me or reach out to nominate yourself or someone on your team for the cohort. We are accepting nominations. Mastermind program, proving your ROI and ROE for your training. For HR and L&D professionals who are ready to lead with data, design, and credibility. It's 18 weeks, it's hands-on, it's outcome-driven. You're going to learn the MVP and the PDP models directly from me. We also look at the two other frameworks I told you about, the Kirkpatrick and the 12 levers. They are limited seats, by the way. It's an high impact, it is transformational. If you're interested, send me an email and let us get you registered. That's my LinkedIn. I'm known as the Training Transfer Effectiveness Advocate, Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness, and I'm known as the Oracle. And I end by saying, finally, training is not a cost to justify. It is a lever to activate. When we design for transfer, we don't just deliver learning. We deliver what? Results. And that's a quote by me, Sandra, the Oracle, Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. What is your plan, action plan? What will be your next line of action? What will be your next line of action? So while you're thinking of your next line of action, let me answer the questions on the chat box. Please start telling me your next line of action. Let me read the questions. Emmanuel, are you still here? Let me answer your questions. Okay, Emmanuel is still here. Let me answer your question. So let's talk. Yes, let me answer your question, Emmanuel. Okay. So the first question Emmanuel asks is, are there AI tools that can help organizations to determine their ROE and generally support training transfer effectiveness? AI is not your enemy. AI is your friend. I use him a lot. I ask him questions. So now, your question is, use ChatGPT. How can it help you? What people don't understand is AI is there to implement what you do, is to guide and amplify what you do. Now, I already know what I want to do. So what I do, I tell my MGTP, this is what I want to do. I give him my ideas. And I say, what do you think? Let's refine it. And as he's refining it, because I know what he does is just refining it and beautifying it and making it better for me. So in this day, I said, no, this is not what I said. Though. There are times when I tell him something, he starts giving me learning outcomes. I told him, see, have you forgotten that learning and training are not the same thing? That training is a component of learning. He will now apologize to me and say, I'm sorry, the Oracle. So you must know at least what you know. What AI does is to help you to amplify it. I have found it. He gives me errors sometimes. I'm like, MGTP, but this is not what I told you now. Have you forgotten again? He will apologize. I'll say, this is what I want. So what he does for me is, I already have. So I could tell him, we are trying to get an objective. I know how to set this objective. Sometimes he's setting objectives for me and he's not smart. And I tell him that you cannot, he will say, I'm trying to use an example. And I'll tell him that you cannot quantify this now. How can you say this? And he will apologize to me. So to an extent, I know what I want him to do, but I just want him to make it beautiful for me. I tell him a story and he makes it beautiful. And you're like, wow. When you read it, it's like, wow. But I know the storyline, so you must know the foundation. And that's why we say you cannot take people away. AI is just there to amplify our work, but you cannot take away people and support you in your training transfer effectiveness. In how? In helping you to get the objectives. But you must know that, because sometimes he will give you wrong objectives that you cannot measure. So you must know to be able to tell him that this objective is not smart. You cannot measure this. Right? I hope I answered. Emmanuel, did I answer that question?
Yes, but I wanted a follow-up.
Okay, please.
You know, when you were explaining, now we're looking at problems that the ROE addresses problems. Okay, what you answered was general. What I think I got from what you just said, which was excellent to me, was that generally how AI like ChatGPT helps you. I'm looking at determining that sales volumes are going down, and so they will go for, the sales team will have to go for training, and so we are expecting that by the time they come, sales increase by this percentage and the rest. Do we have tools that can really help managers to get to know that this is a need, and so we need training, and so after the training, this is the return on expectation, and therefore return on investment.
So that means what you're doing, you're looking for something that will do all the whole work for you. I've not seen any tool like that.
Oh, okay.
You must do your own work. So there's a part work you can do. Even I was talking to one of my colleagues, is an AI guru. He's also the person I'm working with on this. He said, Sandra, you need to tell the AI, you need to say what you want. So what it does is amplifying. So this thing you're saying, you're looking for someone that will do the whole work. No, you don't get someone, you have to do the part of the work. So the first thing you do is you have to define the objectives. You cannot get a tool that will just, because you have to feed it. It's data now. You have to feed in something to get something. So you have to feed in something to get something. So you can even say, my sales people, they are not performing well, which is not even, this is not even measurable. But you can try and say, they are not performing well. What is the problem? What can I do? I need to rule out things for you to do. It's now for you to look at it and see which one that is for you, which one that will help you, which one that will not help you. So all this thing is still AI. So you must feed in something and to get something. You cannot just stay like that. You must feed it something to get something. You might even say, our managers are just, people are just complaining about the managers. Everywhere, people are complaining in the organization about the managers. They are complaining about the company. What really do you think the problem is? What can I do? It will rule out things for you and tell you different problems and tell you what you think you can do. Then it's now for you to choose based on your problem and say, okay, what can I do based on this that has been given to me? I don't know if that helps now.
Yes, please. I think this is very clear. We have work to do.
Yeah, so you have work to do. You do have work to do. So I think, Emmanuel, every company needs to create a training transfer department. Not necessarily, because that will be creating too much work. The HR and the L&D must just know what is training transfer effective. They must be knowledgeable. You must be knowledgeable. I went for a webinar and I asked how many people knew about the 4 levels of Kirkpatrick. Only 4 people out of over 60 people. Where does that leave us? And this I'm talking about from different African countries. You must have but you must be knowledgeable. You must have knowledge. You must have the skill. You must know this. Let's not start creating another department. Let's get knowledge first. Be knowledgeable about training transfer effectiveness. What is it all about? How can I do it? Knowledgeable about ROI, knowledgeable about ROE. Just start small. You must don't bite more than you can chew. Start small. All these things Coach Sandra is giving you, the Oracle is giving you, just start small. So that's what I think. It is nothing that overwhelming. It's not overwhelming them anything, Emmanuel. I think HRs can really be overwhelmed. No, they're overwhelmed because they're overwhelmed with unnecessary things. If they define their work, they will not be overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with unnecessary things. They are chasing the wrong things. That's why they feel overwhelmed. That's what I think. It's my own opinion. It's my own view. Okay, please, we've run out of time. It's a lie. We are 9 minutes out of our time. I sincerely apologize. I don't do this. I always keep to time. So I don't think we'll take any question again. Anybody that wants to ask any question, please wait behind. I will wait behind after it. I won't take any question again. We've run out of time. So we've talked about ROE and ROI and the real impact. And I just want to say thank you, everyone. So let's start making training transfer effectiveness a standard, not an exception. It is a movement. Join the movement. Stay connected and let us transform training across Africa, one program at a time. And I remain Sandra Ihenacho, Coach Sandra Ihenacho, aka the Oracle, Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. That's my LinkedIn handle. IG, I hardly go there. X, I hardly go there. LinkedIn, I am always there, most often there. And that's my email address. Thank you once again, everyone. And please, connect with me. We are trying to build hubs in this different country. Braston, we're having a call. Myself and Braston, we're having a call after this meeting. Braston, so I'm going to call you or call me immediately after this meeting. Let's have, thank you so much, Emmanuel. God bless you too. Timothy, what country are you in? Timothy, drop your number now, please. Let Samson get it. We need to create hubs in this different country. Likando, thank you, Samson. Timothy, drop your number. Samson I'm going to reach out to you now. We are trying to create hubs, TTE hubs in every country, every African country. And next month, thinking of Rwanda and various other countries. Yeah, yes, really, yes. So please drop your emails. So everyone, those that'll be watching this, good night, have a good night rest.